Shetland Dialect Corpus scoping study is a project to find out if it's possible to build a digital corpus. And a corpus is a collection of texts that have been written in Orkney dialect or Shetland dialect through the ages. And the reason is that I want to find out more about the history and grammar of these dialects, and instead of asking people, would you say this or would you say that, I want to find out what they actually do say. So I'm trying to create a collection of texts that are searchable online and that any researcher can use. So what's so special about the Orkney and Shetland dialects? Well, they are dialects of Scots, but they're not like other dialects of Scots because they have a very special history. Orkney and Shetland used to be part of Norway, and in 1468 and 69 they were handed over to Scotland. But people didn't change their language right away. They continued to speak a dialect of Norse for 300 years while it slowly died. So people were coming in who were speaking Scots, and people were still in Ireland who were speaking the Norse language. And many people also spoke both, they were bilingual. So naturally, the Norse language influenced the Scottish language in the islands. So today, people speak Scots, and in it is a little sprinkling of Norse influence. So that makes it different from other Scottish dialects. Another thing that makes it different is that since they are islands, they haven't been as influenced by English and other dialects of Scots as dialects on the mainland, or some dialects on the mainland have been. So it's quite old-fashioned, and that interests me too. So I'm trying to find the traces of Middle Scots in the dialects of Orkney and Shetland. So I've been to libraries and archives, and I've looked for texts. For example, this one, the collected Orkney dialect tales of C.M. Costy. And it's a wonderful book because C.M. Costy writes not just the dialogue, but the whole story in Orkney dialect. And she was born in 1902. So her dialect is quite old-fashioned, and that interests me. And there are even older texts in the archives and libraries, for example by Walter Traill Denison, who wrote in the 19th century. So you can go quite far back into the 19th century and find dialect texts, and then you can try and trace the development from them through this and even into more modern dialect texts and see if there's any changes.
Lang Syne, Mancy Moore was picking limpets of the Abe on the west side of Haxness's Sandy, when he was stunned to hear some way among the rocks an unco curious sound. Sometimes it was like a body of terrible pain, making mean, and then it would make a loud sound like the root of a damn cow. Mansie thought to himself the calf hides would make a bonny waistcoat to him, and he ran to where they were AHRC lying. The poor mother Selkie rowed herself over the face of the rock into the sea, but her twa birds had no wit to flee. Mansie turned to gang awa with the twa Selkie birds in his arms. They were shooken at his coat as gin they been at the mother's breast, when he heard the Selkie mother gie a groan sae dismal and how and sae human-like, and that gaed straight to his heart and fairly overcame him. He looked about and saw the mother Selkie lying on her side, where he'd on the rock, and he saw, as sure as ever he saw a thing on earth, the tears feemin' fae baith her een. So he looted down and past baith the peerie Selkies on the rock. The mother took them her megs and clasped them to her bosom, as gin she been a body wi' a bairn, and she looked at Mansie's face. Oh, sic a blithe look the Selkie gied him. She did Mansie good to see her, for that day the Selkie did everything but speak. Mansie get the fish silos off our outlying rock. And when he came to gang him, he was sairly stunned to see the trink atween him and the land fairly flowed over, and the sea so deep it would tin him aboon the head. Mansie cried and better cried, for he was far fae ony house, and naebody heard his cries. Just as he found the sea beginning to lift him for the rock, something gripped him by the neck of the cart and whipped him off of his feet. He can't know what it was or where he was, till he found his feet at the bottom, where he could wade ashore safely. And when the critter that had had him past him, he waded to the dry land. He looked where he came fae, and saw a muckle Selkie swimming to the rock, where she took up his cubby of fish and swam wade to the land. He waded out and took the cubby full of fish out of her mouth, and he said with a' his heart, "God bless the Selkie that does no forget." And she looked to him as gin if she could have spoken, she would have said, "A good turn meets another." She was the same Selkie that he saw callowing on Haxness. He said he would have kent her motherly luck amang 1,000.